Hello, everybody.
I'm back.
We're back.
You look tanned.
I have no idea why we're in green on the bottom, but we are back. Any idea?
Because I was screwing around with the fonts.
Oh, well, that's why we're in green. We're in neon today. We are in Seattle Seahawk neon green, along with Jamal Adams, who was there for a couple more years at a ridiculous
20 million a year, 18 million a year. Why shouldn't he stay in Seattle? It's a nice town.
A ridiculous salary. I'm Sean Palmer. That's Seth Kamens. Seth and Sean Sports Radio here on StreamYard. It is a pleasure to be back in the lower 48.
Tell us about the Iditarod, dude. Did you mush?
I did not mush, and actually, I did not see the dogs. So for those that were not around last week, I spent the last week in Alaska. There is very little snow right now in Alaska, so hence the Iditarod.
Well, to be fair, it is August.
But it was 41 degrees. It was still cold. I mean, legit cold and raining every day. So they get 17 hours of daylight, which was amazing. So
Except when it was raining the whole time, who cares?
Except for my tours. It seemed to be like a 10-minute window. Right.
I don't know. I couldn't read your blog. My God, after like 5 pages, my head started to spin.
Just look at the pictures, dude.
I don't think I had the attention. I don't think I have any attention span anymore.
Dude, just the pictures are awesome. Just look at the pictures. The pictures of
that's like reading with my 3-year-old kid.
And that's what you should do. Yeah. I would suggest showing Jake the pictures. The pictures are amazing that I posted today. So
I'll take your word for it. I'll look at it while I drive home.
That's awesome. And you'll probably crash the same way I almost did an ATV last week as well.
Yeah, but I'm driving a Subaru. I got a better chance of surviving than you do on the ATV.
True that. And so while we are discussing all this, you can find me at SULawyer2001 on Twitter. On Facebook, you can find us at Seth and Sean. And you can find Seth at S. Kamens on Twitter as well.
For the 5,000 Twitters a day that I post. I know everyone is just is on bated breath, waiting to see what I have to think about everything going on in the world.
Well, of course. I mean, why not? And for those that do follow the show, next week we will be doing our NCAA college football preview, of which I am so very excited.
Let's go Nebraska. Come on, Adrian Martinez, for the 9th straight year. He is the Jess Settles of college football.
Am I ever going to live that prediction down? I mean,
No. Look, you took a shot. Hey, you took a shot.
I was just going to say, at least I took a shot, right?
You could have been a hero. You could have been a contender. Instead, you're just like every other bum.
Well, I will tell you next week that I will come up again with something else. So there will be another shot made.
Oh, I'm all buzz waiting.
Well, considering the fact that I know next to nothing about college football, it
depends. Is Marion Motley? Is Jim Brown walking through that door?
Okay.
Is Donovan McNabb walking through that door? Is Don McPherson walking through that door?
Hold on. Let me make the first bold prediction of the year. Alabama will be in the playoff.
Wow. That's fantastic.
There's your first.
I hope you're wrong, just so I can make fun of you for the next.
I hope I'm wrong too, because
we all do. Nobody wants to see unless you're from Alabama. Nobody wants to see Alabama in the playoff at this point.
Or from Georgia, because half the people in Georgia root for Alabama, which makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, I just assume they won 4 teams from the SEC in the playoff, and nothing else would be acceptable.
Yeah, and we'll get on to realignment later in this show, because it's going to be a cluster of epic proportions as to who goes where to what, and if anything actually does happen. And I'm not really sure that will be the case. I'm not sure that there will be adjustments past where we are.
We can talk about it. I mean, the Pac-10, Big Ten, and ACC are talking about some version of a strategic alliance, but they're not going to be bringing in any more teams. I wonder what happens with the Big 12 teams with Texas Tech and TCU and Baylor and Iowa State. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, what was it?
That's very profound.
Well, look, anything that we say is pure conjecture, right?
That's the fun of hosting your own show.
Okay, so what's your pure conjecture? That nothing else happens? That the Big 12 stays the Big 10?
No, right now they're the big. Are they the Big Ten at this point, or are they the Big Eight? They're reverting back to what they were back in the 1980s.
The SWAC.
This one. What was the Big Eight with Nebraska and Oklahoma? Except
Right.
Nebraska's not there. But you're the expert on Nebraska, so you know all that. And the Southwest Conference, which was led by the Pony Express of SMU, which was so good that they went on the death penalty for 3 years, and nobody ever heard from them again until Sonny Dykes took over a couple years ago. It's going to be we'll talk about it more next week, as you said. I don't think. Look, the Big Ten there's no one for the Big Ten to take. They're not going to take Kansas.
You mean
They're
the Big
not
12 to take? Or are you saying the Big
No,
10?
I'm saying the Big Ten. I'm saying the Big
Yes,
12.
there is. Missouri.
Missouri's
Oh,
in the
Missouri's
SEC.
in the
What the hell
SEC.
do they need? What the hell do they need the Big Ten for?
Yeah.
They can be just as mediocre in either conference.
I
Doesn't
forgot
matter.
that Missouri switched over. Yep, you're correct.
Missouri's never been in the Big Ten, dude. They're in
No?
the Big No.
Oh, then I messed that up. I'm confusing
Yeah.
I'm confusing them with West Virginia.
West Virginia's never been in the Big Ten either.
Right. There was the
Like
whole
you-
thing that they may have gone to the Big 10 and they never went to the Big 12. No, they're in the
No. They wanted to go. Okay, let's stop. You're embarrassing yourself.
West Virginia's in the Big 12. Yes?
Yeah. Yes.
That's what I said. So the Big 10, I confused Missouri with West Virginia. So
West Virginia has nothing to do with the Big Ten. They didn't try to get into the Big Ten. They tried to get into the SEC or the ACC.
You are so not hearing me. I thought my confusion was that you're loving this, and I'm trying to weasel my way out. It's true.
I wish you the best of luck. I'll just sit
I
back and
confused Missouri for West Virginia. So if Missouri was in the Big 12, which is what I thought that they were, and it's West Virginia, not Missouri, then the Big 10 would be up for taking Missouri. They have the academics.
Yes, yes, they would have. If Missouri was in the
Right.
Big 12,
That's what I was trying to get at.
okay, you went nowhere near that, but sure.
That's
Just to
what my
expedite
brain
this.
was. Look, my brain's in a different time zone still, so I'm working on this. 4 hours in a
I'm
different.
crying for you on your week and a half trip, where you ran through glaciers naked or whatever the hell you did. Jesus Christ!
By the way, if you're looking for this is a sports show, and if you're looking for a good show to watch, All American on Netflix is excellent.
Oh God.
I'm a big fan.
Okay, well, we're dying a slow death on this show. Number one, and number two, yeah, we have one episode left on the White Lotus on HBO, which is just weird.
Have yet to see it. Have yet to see it.
It's supposed to be a murder mystery, but I'm into the last episode and there's no murder yet, so I'm a little confused.
That's awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happened today? Jackie McMullen retires from ESPN.
Yeah, that's a terrible shame, and I mean that sincerely.
That's a big loss.
It's not a shame. It's not a shame her going off around the horn because let's be honest, who other than college kids home, that are home at 5 o'clock, who's watching around the horn? But she's a phenomenal NBA writer, and one of the first women that I can really think of, respected from on all counts, players, fans, media. Never a hint of controversy, just a really good writer. And you may not have agreed with everything she wrote, but you respected where it came from.
Yeah, there are very few Boston writers that I agree with everything that they write. But
I assume there's very few Boston writers you agree with anything that they write.
No, look, Gammons is a Boston writer.
When was the last time Gammons wrote anything?
The Athletic. He wrote on The Athletic.
Oh, he writes so little for The Athletic.
Look, I agreed when Will McDonough used to write.
Will McDonough's been dead for 20 years.
I agree when Sean McDonough says something.
Sean McDonough, you only agree with that because he went to Syracuse.
All of which are true. I'm not debating.
But that has nothing to do with the price of tea in China.
Dan
Dan Shaughnessy's just unhappy, it seems, all the time.
And I don't agree with anything that Bob Ryan used to say.
Right.
Nothing.
So where are we here then? Yeah, Will McDonough was supposedly a good writer. I don't remember his writing because he wrote in the 70s and 80s. In the 60s, for that matter, then became an analyst for the NBC, NFL and NBC.
During the 80s, I actually did get the Boston Globe at camp, so I did read that every day. The Boston Globe and the New York Post. Believe it or not, I read one.
Well, at least you got one quality newspaper.
One quality
Were you,
newspaper.
were you reading Page 6 when you were 11 years old?
Perhaps, depending on what the weather was like outside, it might have happened. The thing that I learned early is good journalism by reading the crap. And when you read the New York Post, it's mostly crap, except for Lupica back then. Lupica was for the Daily News and the Post, back and forth.
Yeah, but he's just
angry.
Yeah. Like it seems like every other sports writer. So I have an idea for next year for fantasy football.
Oh, please enthrall me with this idea.
No, this was really cool. I was out to dinner with some people, and this guy's in a fantasy GM dynasty league.
Yeah.
Where you would get $1,000 and you keep players for years and there's a salary cap. Why have we never tried to do this?
We do this.
No, this is much, much more sophisticated than what we do.
Okay, you can call a keeper league a dynasty league. I understand what you're saying is that you keep your entire team, right? And you mature players from young to old, and they get I've done this with baseball. It is a lot more difficult, no question.
Good.
B, it takes the problem with the dynasty league is and for those that are trying to figure out what we mean by a dynasty league, is that you enter the league with a certain amount of money and a certain amount of players, similar to what you would with a fantasy league, a regular auction fantasy league at the end of year one. And you get to keep those players based on the maturation of them and the increase in cost of them. Sometimes they may go all up $5 or $10 or whatever it is. And you eventually drop those players. But you basically keep your entire team if you want to, based on a salary budget. Now, the problem with that, Seth, is if everybody enters the Dynasty League at the same time, that's great. And I'm totally in with playing a league like that. When a team enters after everybody else has entered, A, you're getting a crap team to begin with.
Yes.
B, you are suffering for 2 to 3 years before you're ever going to make the playoffs.
But that's why I'm thinking maybe for next year we take 8 to 10 guys that we think are good at this and see if they want to do it.
I'm totally in. Are you running it?
I would run it.
Okay, fair enough.
I have to learn a little bit more about it because I was just reading. I mean, I've heard of dynasty leagues. I've never seen as I said, I've never seen one this sophisticated before. And I have the snake as opposed to a snake 10-person league, which literally I can do without a sheet.
Right, and then you get a rookie salary. Then you do have an auction at the beginning of every year. The auction is just for those players that A, have not been kept, or B, who are rookies.
Right. Plus, people can make bids on unrestricted agents, and there's things you can do. It's interesting.
It is. Like you said, it is a lot more work. It is. We'd be talking about it every day in the month of August. Every single day, you and I would be going back and forth on it.
Gee, what a shame that would be.
Look,
are we going to be talking about your dating life anytime soon?
No, absolutely not.
So what else are we going to talk about? My kids?
Off the table for the video conference. It was.
You mean I'm not giving out your phone number on the show anymore?
For those that do not remember, Seth's phone number is. I did put it out there once, and it has not changed. So for those that are long time,
to be fair, when we started the show, I was single. I'm now married with 2 kids.
Does it matter?
Yeah. If someone randomly wants to call me,
the people that you were afraid of back then, you're probably still afraid of today.
Probably.
So I mean, it doesn't really make that much of a difference.
And they're going to call me the way I look at this point compared to the way I looked 10 years ago. Go ahead.
So anyway, Jackie McMullen retires. That's where we all started. And the Celtics acquired Dennis Schroeder in the last 10 days.
I was surprised Mark hasn't popped up on the show yet to discuss.
Mark has totally popped up on my text messaging with regards to Dennis Schroeder. Look, good pickup by the Celtics.
Not a negative asset.
No, well, there is no 1-year negative assets.
And it's certainly not at $6 million.
No, but it's still, if you are listening, this does nothing to improve this team. You just brought in a $5.9 million Kemba Walker, which makes him not a negative asset, but not as good as Kemba Walker was. And he does the exact same things that Kemba does well and the exact same things that he does not do well.
I think he's a little bit better of a defender than Kemba is.
That may be, but he's definitely not a better shooter.
No.
And the thing that this team needs, ironically, is the same thing they needed last year, which is why they got Evan Fournier, which is shooting and spacing. So now your starting lineup is Robert Williams, Al Horford, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Dennis Schroeder. So,
no, Marcus, you're not going to start Marcus Smart?
Oh, I'm definitely starting the max contract Marcus Smart, which was another I don't know what the hell the Celtics were thinking. So
has Mark called to discuss this?
He has not. He is not.
Because maybe even he knows it. I'm a Marcus Smart fan. You don't max out Marcus Smart.
Now, to be fair, not all max contracts are the same, right?
Right. His, I think, 4 for 80, something like that.
Yeah, let's call it 4 for 80. So you got $20 million. The thing about the Celtics is twofold. If you wanted to max out Marcus Smart, you could have done that this year. You could have done it when he was a free agent next year with no problem. So you had another year. Number two, if you maxed him out next year, you could have actually signed a max free agent before re-signing him with the bird rights. So right now what they have done is they have limited their capabilities next year. They cannot re-sign Dennis Schroeder to more than 120% of what he is getting. So that's what, $8 million. So he's gone. They only have about $16 million in cap room, and then add the $7 million that they'll get from Al Horford. So that's if they release him. So that's $23 million. That's still not – that's not turning –
you a good player, but it's not going to get you a change the –
Guess who you're getting? Evan Fournier for that money. No, I'm just saying that's the type of player you're getting. So you're not getting a moving the needle person.
No, you're getting a good role player for $20 million. Just think about what I just said. You are getting a good role player for $20 million.
You're getting Marcus Smart.
Yeah, and the problem is these moves have not moved the needle for the Celtics whatsoever. Maybe are they better? They're not better than the Nets. They're not better than Milwaukee. They're not better than Miami. They're not better than Philly. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go with Philly. They're in that Philly, Atlanta area. So somewhere between, I guess, the Knicks, somewhere in the 4 to 7. But, unless the Nets can't stay healthy, which is distinctly possible, Miami, Miami doesn't bounce back, and Milwaukee has the post championship, gets killed post championship. They're still not considered one of the top tier teams in the East.
No, I think they are very much the same as Indiana. Like they're in that boat. They're in that second, maybe even third tier boat with the Bulls.
No, they have 2 stud players, so that probably puts them a little bit above the third tier.
Okay. Look, I am not high on the Celtics and have not been, surprisingly, and have not been high on the Celtics for a very long period of time due to the spacing problem and the defense problem. And I have said that before. I am shocked. Look, we're taking a step back and looking at these teams and what teams have done over the course of free agency. And I'm shocked and there was an article by John Hollinger on The Athletic, which if you remember, I suggest you read. I really enjoyed reading.
And if you're not a member and you're a sports fan, you should
be a member. Is the fact, and they're not a sponsor of the show.
I was going to say, do we get free stuff for saying that? For posting
no,
that?
but we are we're big fans. I mean, we really are of The Athletic. In the fact that there are a lot of teams this year that are going for it all for no reason, that have no shot. Like, I don't understand what some of these teams is. Miami's one injury away from being a championship contender.
Yeah, but look, now you talk about you have a 3 with Lowry, Butler, who's re-signed for the max, and Adebayo. You have good role players. Udonis Haslem is 73 years old and re-signed again. But I mean, you have a nice team with Miami. I mean, I don't know if they're really a championship caliber team with the right luck and the right run, and also really seeing what Kyle Lowry has left. I would never bet against him. He's a tough player. But is he that much better than Goran Dragic? I mean, Dragic is a good player.
I don't know. I'm just going to read some of this from Hollinger's column, which is awesome. In 2024-25, you will have a 37-year-old Stephen Curry making $55.8 million. Wait, we're not even close to done. You will have a 33-year-old Paul George making $49 million. Lining up next to him is a 32-year-old Kawhi Leonard who's making $49 million. By the way, there's also a good chance that he just re-signed for 5 years extension starting at 32 years old. Continuing on, in Portland, or wherever he winds up, Damian Lillard will be 34 and raking in $50 million. In Miami, you will have Jimmy Butler making $49 million and have another year on his deal. Milwaukee will have Jrue Holiday making almost $40 million. The Lakers are paying 40-year-old LeBron James north of $50 million. And by the way, that's in 24-25. 22-23, 38-year-old LeBron James makes 45. 34-year-old Russell Westbrook makes 47 for a combined $92 million. And in Brooklyn, ladies and gentlemen, in Brooklyn, 36-year-old Kevin Durant is making 51. If and when James Harden and Kyrie extend their deals, which we both know they will, they'll take in $100 million more. So in that year, those three will put up 104 years old of age. And their contracts alone, just the three of them, might put Brooklyn into the luxury tax. Wow. Wow. All that is wow. And Seth, you and I talk about the Knicks and how they have not done the superstar game this year. By not doing the superstar game, they're not on that list anywhere.
But here's your problem. You're also not a championship contender.
How many of those teams are championship contenders? Is Golden State right now?
Yeah.
I'm not sure without knowing what Clay's bringing back.
If Klay Thompson is back, yes.
Okay. The Clippers?
Not this year because Kawhi's hurt.
And maybe, who knows if Kawhi comes back healthy, right?
Nobody knows with Kawhi in general.
And let me ask you, hold on a second. Clippers, Spotrac, I love looking at this. So assuming that this is the team, I'm just looking for the multi-year summary. All right, multi-year. In 2022-23, these are the players on the roster. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Eric Bledsoe, Marcus Morris, Luke Kennard, Reggie Jackson, Zubac, Justice Winslow, maybe Batum, Keon Johnson, Terrence Mann, Brandon Boston. That's not a championship team, Seth.
Probably not. But right now, if they're healthy,
maybe. Yeah, I mean, you were talking about a starting five of Miami, right? If they're all healthy right now, the starting five of the Clippers, is Paul George at the, 3 or 4 or 2? Where's he playing?
He's anywhere from 2 to 4.
Fine. So let's fill in the gaps. So Reggie Jackson's your 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bledsoe's your swing guy because you're not playing Bledsoe and Jackson together. That's just nuts. So Luke Kennard is your 2. Your 3 is Marcus Morris, or your 3 is Paul George. Your 4,
look, you're not a championship team without Leonard.
You're not a championship team on this team with Leonard. I'm still trying to figure out where the championship comes out with Marcus Morris, Eric Bledsoe, and Reggie Jackson. And not Mr. October, but Reggie Jackson, Mr. something another.
Mr. April? Mr.
Fine,
May?
Mr. April.
No, that's Dave Winfield.
As your 3, 4, and 5 players. Those are not championship players. When your
Yeah, but
bench
you know
is
what?
led by Justin
Ivan Zubac is walking through that door.
right, but that doesn't make it any better. I'm just saying, I don't. Okay, so that's to me, that's not a championship team. Is Portland a championship
No,
team?
no,
Milwaukee, we know is. Miami, maybe.
maybe.
Right? You just said maybe. The Lakers are a championship team. Okay, but I'll tell you right now, you know my theory on the Lakers. I hate this team. I hate the way they're constructed. And unless LeBron James takes it on his back, which he is likely bound to do, this team doesn't win either. And then you have Brooklyn, which is probably a championship team. Championship caliber. So, what, 3 out of those 6 are definitive championship teams, and the rest of them have, in 24-25, had a $50 million player on them? Like I said, oh, by the way, let's keep going right now. Okay. So Brooklyn owes a first or a pick swap to Houston
for the next 5 years.
6 drafts.
6 drafts is 6 drafts, not 5.
6. The Clippers owe 3 firsts and 2 pick swaps to the Thunder. The Lakers owe 2 firsts and a pick swap to New Orleans. By the way, those could be in 24 or 25. Miami owes a pick swap and has no pick in 2023 and has traded virtually all of its seconds for the next 5 years. Golden State owes a first to Memphis in 24. Milwaukee owes 3 firsts and 2 pick swaps
to New Orleans.
Utah, who will have Rudy Gobert making $43 million in 24-25.
Yeah, but at least he's young.
Yeah, he'll be 32 at that point. That's true.
Yeah. I mean, young is relative.
They owe a first-round pick and don't have many of their seconds either. And I know I'm reading most of John Hollinger's article, but I don't care because the point is I agree with his point. Everybody, and even go down the path of the Chicago Bulls, who have given away picks, right? For what, the play-in tournament? If they're lucky?
I mean, that team. I see this. You see the offensive firepower. You got Vucevic at the 5. You got Levine, DeRozan, and Ball. And we both thought Ball really kind of has gotten a shit reputation for the most part. It's probably not deserved. But yeah, I don't see them better than any of these teams. I don't see them be able to defend anybody. They may be fun to watch, but yeah, I mean, DeRozan's what, $30 million a year for the next 2 years?
Yeah. No, it's like $56 million for the next 2 years. He's making 28. Right. Keep going with that, right?
I mean, well, what are you going to say? I mean, his stats are good. He's just, his game doesn't fit the current era.
Right.
I mean, that's just what it is.
Look, he averaged 6 assists last year.
Yeah.
But the ball was in his hands the entire time. And that is not going to happen in Chicago. And let me ask you this, which is even better. What if they lose Zach LaVine after next year?
Then you have a lottery team.
Then you have a lottery team without picks.
This is Billy King trying to keep his position. Not Billy King.
I was about to say Billy King's not there. No.
The Billy King philosophy, but it's the wrong one. This is the philosophy of the GM where you have 4 years to rebuild this and you can't do it. But you need to make one move to make sure you make the playoffs, because if you haven't been in the playoffs 4 years in a row, you're fired. But if you show some
GM, this is the new GM.
This is the Russian. I forget his name.
Yeah, this is the new GM.
Oh boy. Well, look, he thinks I don't get the DeRozan deal. We didn't get that was the one where we talked, and we were just, both of us were just speechless on it. Yeah, I didn't get it. I don't get that team. Unless they're going to be the contrarian, we're going to zig when you guys zag thing.
Yeah. I'm a little befuddled. the whole, and then you still have the Raptors, right? And the Raptors, who we both like. We both like the team that they've put together. Yeah, they lost Lowry, but they got Scotty Barnes, and as long as Siakam comes back healthy, this is a playoff team.
Yeah, but with the potential to be a bit more.
Right, and you still have Charlotte, who's coming up, and I like what Charlotte did. I like what Detroit did. I love what Cade Cunningham brings to the table for that team. He's
he's bringing it to the table because there's nobody else there.
Well, that's part of it, right? But he's a face of a franchise, and look, when you look at teams, I'll give you the one team that has none of that and hasn't, and that's the Orlando Magic, right? They are hoping that Jalen Suggs becomes the face of the franchise.
Oh, well, he will. I don't have any doubt about that.
No, my point is, when's the last time that team had a face of the franchise? And don't tell me Aaron Gordon was that guy, because he wasn't.
No, I'm going back further. Penny. Oh, Dwight Howard. Sorry.
Okay, so you're talking about what, in the 90s?
Dwight Howard?
No, I'm kidding. In the 2000s?
Yeah, I mean, they went to the finals in 2010 or 11, I forget which, or 9
right.
maybe.
So you're talking at least 11 years ago.
Yeah, they've been irrelevant for the last decade for the most part.
Yeah.
Since Dwight Howard pulled his Shaq Part 2, and his career has never recovered. He's going to be the most unpopular Hall of Famer that I can remember.
But he will be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. He was the best center in basketball for 5 years, give or take. He'll be there.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Did you see what Minnesota did yesterday with the Patrick Beverley deal?
Yeah,
I loved it.
Why? I didn't look too much into it. Why would you trade Jared Culver, who's your number 6 pick like 2 years ago?
Okay, so why do you trade?
I guess because they have no defense and they have no alpha defensive dog, and that gives you, and that's what Beverly is.
And that's what he is, right? And that's what he's going to be, especially for a team like that, which needs that more than anything else.
Well, I guess also, to be fair, they need a starting point guard. Like, Russell's really a combo. And, you have Russell, you have Edwards, you have Towns. You don't have a defensive dog.
Yeah, and part of it also is that Beverly is a free agent after next year. So that's $14 million off the cap. They are losing about $30 million off the cap after next year. Not to say they're a cap team. Actually, I'm sorry, 30. Yeah, and they have Edwards as a re-sign. So about 30 to 35 million. They will only have max close to max cap room next year. Not that anybody's going to Minnesota.
Nobody's going to Minnesota.
Not that anybody's going.
So it makes absolutely no difference. Unless it's a sign and trade, unless
but
it's
that again means somebody needs to want to go to Minnesota.
No, unless you trade for someone they are able to re-sign them.
Right, and Minnesota is a beautiful place in the summer. I went there on my trip too, but I'm not exactly.
Yeah, but nobody really cares. There's no pictures of you running through the glaciers in Minnesota.
No, just the cornfields of Iowa. So
do we want to talk about the Field of Dreams? Man, what a weird week. We want to talk about the Field of Dreams baseball game?
I think we should. And good segue. Well done.
Thank you.
I'm not sure you did anything with that, but good segue nonetheless.
Hey, why not?
I caught the intro, which I thought was incredibly well done.
Yep, I agree.
Costner, from what I understand, Costner had been rehearsing that for 3 weeks, the intro, along with most of the production staff. And now it looks like they're going to have another game next year, either there or somewhere else. There was an idea that was floated around the internet. You need to have a Sandlot game next, because I would love that. You play that in in the sand with the Sandlot in the back, and you put the big dog in the back. I'm totally down.
Yeah, look, all these things are good novelty. They're good fun. I didn't see the game, but I saw the opening, which was neat, and the idea is really neat. But the problem is that's what you got.
Well, it's the same thing that hockey has, right, with the outdoor games. You're going to do a novelty, and the novelty. I think the NFL lost a lot by not playing a game in Canton this year. A real game, not an exhibition game. A real game in Canton. where the 100th anniversary of the Hall of Fame or the 100th anniversary of the NFL. Like there are good times to do these. They eventually do lose their novelty. And I think like interleague play has completely lost its novelty to me. And the outdoor games for hockey aren't great. Basketball games, we haven't really seen those yet, but I'm sure they're right around the corner. You'll see one on an aircraft carrier someday. Much the same way.
We see that in college. We don't see that.
Right.
It's hard to see that in the pros.
Yeah. So I think you're right. It had its novelty, but I think the real stat is that was the best watched baseball game, I believe, in the last 10 years or something along those lines. And
that's regular season.
Yes. And it still got outdrawn by the NFL Hall of Fame exhibition game by like 40%.
Because nobody cares about baseball.
That's about it. It's sad. The only people that care about baseball are the diehard fans. I'll watch every once in a while. And fantasy baseball players. And even then, you really don't need to watch the game. You just need to watch your stats. And unfortunately, my stats have gone downhill since I was in Alaska. So, because I forgot to set my lineup. That's the biggest.
You didn't have access to the internet? They don't have the internet?
Sarah
Palin's Alaska. I mean, I know she's not the governor anymore. But could you see Russia from your backyard?
So there are two things. First of all, we could see Sarah Palin's house from our train. The entrance was blocked. We did have an American flag, so we did roll past the house. That's number one. Number two, we could not see Alaska. We could not see Russia at any point. And number three, there were definitely spots of Alaska with no cell phone service whatsoever.
I'm assuming not at the Hilton, though.
No, but on the glacier, definitely none.
Yes, on the glacier, I can see why it would be difficult to be reading John Hollinger on The Athletic.
Or anything else for that matter.
That's probably true. And considering what's happened in the news the last week, you're probably better off not having access.
Yeah, I've read some of it. It's pretty disturbing as to what's going on. So, all right, just as a little recap, next week we have our NCAA preview, and then the following week we have our
fantasy.
No, we have pro football first. Then we have fantasy, or is it fantasy?
Yeah, we should probably do fantasy before pro football.
Okay, fair enough. So the 25th is college. The 1st is fantasy, and then the 8th, and we'll figure out a time as that is Rosh Hashanah. We'll be doing our pro football preview, which is fun because that's also the day of Nabate Isles fantasy football preview, fantasy football league.
Football draft. And I may have another draft that day as well.
Awesome.
Can't wait.
Somebody's really wishing you a happy new year. So,
jeez. Well, 2 of my drafts are being moved all over the place because everybody's complaining. I'm not going to Temple. I don't care. So makes no difference.
It's 9 o'clock. Are you going to Temple at 9 o'clock? It'll be 6 o'clock in Arizona, and I'll still be available.
Are you going to be? You're going to be in Zona?
I'll be in Zona for that week. Yep, for that week.
It's hard to keep up with the travails. That's why I need the "Where in the World is Sean Palmer."
Where in the world is Sean Palmer? Where in the world is Carmen City?
Okay, now that you're doing like the gopher dance from what do you call it?
Caddyshack?
Caddyshack.
We actually saw a lot of gopher holes in the on the hella hike. But anyway, so we're gonna wrap this up. We got 5 more minutes. Seth, would you like to go first?
I got nothing. I'd rather just hear yours.
Wow, that's the first time you've ever actually said that. I'd rather just hear what you have to say.
Well, you went on a trip. I had my daughter kicking me out of my bed 5 different times at 4 a.m. last night.
So I'd like to point out that not only is my Nebraska knowledge just so on point, but right now in the first year of the new athletic director, Trev Albert's regime, they are being investigated for inappropriately using analysts and consultants with the knowledge of Coach Scott Frost. Now, what makes that completely ironic is that's cheating without winning. So what is the point to cheating if you're not going to win? And
words to live by and to teach your kids. If you're going to cheat, make sure you win.
Look, and for all that's fair, and for all that I wish happened, I wish they had won, because then I wouldn't have had this cloud over my head of making a bad prediction. And this could have been the Reggie Bush thing. You could have won and then been suspended. I never would have heard about the suspension. I would have just heard about the winning. But no. Not only
That's
did
not
you,
how our relationships works, buddy.
not only did you lose, but you cheated and lost. Okay. One more thing before we go. Jamal Adams. Wow. Okay. So Jamal Adams makes about $17.5 million in his new 4-year contract, which happens to be $2 million over Jeffrey Simmons, who is the next highest safety. So
Justin Simmons do.
Justin Simmons. Totally re-evaluating the safety market. And I got pinged by a couple of people yesterday saying, well, the Jets could have signed him for this. What do you think about the contract now? I will tell you, there is no safety in the world that is worth $17.5 million. None. I don't care. Jamal Adams still and has the same problems they did with the Jets. He cannot cover me. And if you can't cover me.
He can cover you because you can't catch. You can run. But I'm not sure you can catch while you run.
It doesn't matter. You don't have to. Covering doesn't mean you actually have to defend. I didn't say you have to defend me. You can't cover me.
I love the logic. You're agreeing with the hands comment. But
I am.
And you've had knee surgery, so you're not quite as fast as you used to be. Now, I'm slow, so I can.
The point being, if you're getting 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick for a guy for the ability to pay the guy $17.5 million, Seth, Seattle is a great team this year. I think that they are the best team in the NFC West if they're all healthy. If they are all healthy, if Chris Carson is healthy, if Tyler Lockett is healthy, if Russell Wilson comes to play, they are the best team. But the thing about spending this type of money, which NBA teams and NHL teams and now NFL teams, that money's, especially when you're in the NFL and you have a hard cap, that money's going to come from somewhere. So we'll see in a couple of years when you have guys that are – maybe you lose DK Metcalf because you can't pay him because you're paying Bobby Wagner and you're paying Tyler Lockett and you're paying Russell Wilson and you're paying Jamal Adams. Something has to flush out. So I wish Jamal Adams the best. I'm actually happy that he's not on the Jets right now. And I'll take my 2 first-round picks. And in Joe Douglas, I trust. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Next week, we will talk college football, where will have my next prediction. Beyond that, Alabama will go to the playoffs. So, have a good week, everybody. See ya. Bye-bye.